Hi, this is Tamara from mooglyblog.com, and in this video, I'm going to be demonstrating how to crochet the Perfect Point Cowl, which is a free pattern you'll find on mooglyblog.com. Please go to the link in the description or go to your favorite search engine and simply type in Perfect Point Cowl, Moogly, and it should pop right up. To make this pattern, I used a USM 9mm crochet hook. This one happens to be by Yarnspirations. I also used 300 yards of Caron Macchiato Cakes. This is a bulky weight yarn, which is a blend of cotton and wool. You can use, of course, whichever bulky weight yarn you prefer. I also recommend having some stitch markers handy. This is a one-size-fits-all pattern, meant to fit right around the neck. As you can see, it also has 2 buttons on it. These are completely optional and purely decorative. Let's go ahead and take a closer look at the Perfect Point Cowl. Here we have our finished cowl, and you put it on with your head right through this hole right here. It looks small, but as you can see, it actually opens up really wide. This is how it becomes one size fits all. I don't think anybody's got a bigger head than this. So once it's over your head, it just naturally falls right around the neckline with this beautiful point in front. This is made flat. It's all one piece that's then folded and seamed, and I'll demonstrate that for you here shortly. As I mentioned, the buttons are completely optional and purely decorative. They don't actually do anything. If you do decide, however, to add buttons or a patch or anything else permanent to your cowl like this that is decorative, just make sure you don't put it too close to the neckline to prevent it from opening up. Down here is the perfect place. Here's what it looks like from the back. You can see our head goes right through here, and then we've got this fold. You can also see here where our seam is. After our folding, we do one long seam along this edge and then right along this edge, just where we've got 2 pieces overlapping. That is it. This is a very simple pattern, so let's get started. To begin our Perfect Point Cowl, we of course start with a slip knot on our hook. From there, our first row is 81 foundation double crochets. If you'd prefer not to use the foundation double crochet, you can instead chain 83, skip the 3 chains closest to the hook, which will count as your first double crochet, and double crochet in each remaining chain across. The main thing is to have 81 stitches, or 81 double crochets specifically, at the end of row 1. Here's how I begin with the foundation double crochet. As you can see here, I have chained 2. I'm now going to yarn over and go into the first chain I made, the one right next to the slip knot, the one furthest from the hook. Yarn over and pull up a loop. With 3 loops left on the hook, I'm going to yarn over and pull through 1. That will be the chain at the bottom of my first stitch, and then I will yarn over and pull through 2, and yarn over and pull through 2 to finish the stitch. Now I'm going to take just a moment and break out those stitch markers. Let me get a good one here. There we go. I'm going to put a stitch marker right in the top of that first stitch. This will let me know right to end when I come back for my next row. To continue with the rest of our row of foundation double crochets, I start by yarning over, then I find the 2 loops at the bottom of the previous stitch, like so, yarn over and pull up a loop, yarn over and pull through 1, that will be the chain now at the bottom of my second stitch, yarn over and pull through 2, yarn over and pull through 2. Let's do one more together. Yarn over, go under the 2 loops at the bottom of the previous stitch, yarn over and pull up our loop, yarn over and pull through just 1, then yarn over and pull through 2, and yarn over and pull through 2. We continue in this manner until we have a total of 81 stitches made for row 1. So here I have finished a small representative sample of row 1. You can see by using the foundation double crochet, we've got some great stretch to this. But as I said, if you prefer to do the chain method and work into the chain, that's fine too. As soon as you've got your 81 stitches made, we're ready for row 2. And rows 2 through 22 are all going to be the same, and here's how they go. We start by turning our work, and our first stitch can either be a chain 3, a stacked single crochet, or a chainless starting double crochet. Whatever method you prefer to use to start a row of double crochet. Here's how I like to do it with my chainless starting double crochet. Just like the foundation double crochet, I do have separate tutorials for these stitches on the channel if you'd like to take a closer look at them. Here, I'm going to go ahead and pull my loop up to the height of a double crochet. I can judge that by the previous row. I'm going to secure the top of that loop with my finger on top of the loop against the hook. This is the most important part. This loop cannot move around on this hook while I move the hook around. So now I am going to yarn over with the loop itself, like so. Let me do that again. Secure the loop, yarn over with the loop itself. Then I insert my hook right into the top of the first stitch. Yarn over and pull up a loop. You'll notice I still have not released the top of that loop. I'm going to yarn over and pull through that loop and behind the yarn over, and then yarn over. I finally released the top of that loop. I can pull through those last two loops, and now we've got our first stitch of the row. As I said, if you prefer, you can use a different double crochet substitute or simply use the traditional chain 3, whichever you prefer. I'm going to go ahead and mark that as the top of my first stitch. Then I'm ready to begin the rest of our row. What we're going to do, and it's so natural for me to put my yarn over on there, we don't need it. Let me drop that back off. Our repeat for this row is going to be skip the next stitch and then single crochet and double crochet in the next stitch after that. So we've got our chainless starting double crochet or chain 3, whatever it is in the first stitch. We're going to skip the second stitch. We come to the third stitch and we're going to work a single crochet and a double crochet, both into that same stitch. Just like that. And that's our repeat all the way across. Skip the next stitch, go to the stitch after that, and work a single crochet and a double crochet, both into the same stitch. Let's do that one more time. Skip the next stitch, go to the stitch after that, single crochet, then double crochet, right into the same stitch. As long as you have an odd number of stitches, you should land with a single crochet and double crochet right in your last stitch. So as you can see, I landed right in that last stitch with a single crochet and a double crochet, and that finishes row 2. As I mentioned, we're simply going to repeat row 2 through row 22. So let's go ahead and start one of those rows again together. Once again, I'm going to start with my chainless starting double crochet, pulling that loop up to the height of a double crochet and securing the top of the loop with my finger. Yarn over with the loop itself, go right into that first stitch, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. And I always like to use my stitch markers to mark the first stitch of every row. It's a little extra step that saves a little bit of brain power and helps keep my sides nice and straight. Now we're going to work into the previous row just as we did before. We've got our first stitch made there, so we're going to skip the second one, go to the next one, and we work a single crochet and a double crochet right in the top of that stitch. Looks like I need to pull up a little bit more yarn. I'm getting some tension from my skein. We always want to control the yarn tension with our hands. Don't let the skein fight you for the yarn. So now we'll skip the next stitch and we'll work a single crochet and double crochet in the stitch after that. And just like the previous row, for each of these rows, you should land with that pair of stitches in the very last stitch. So now you can see I have finished row 3 and we're getting some of the beautiful color changes that you'll see in this particular yarn. So now I'm going to go ahead and jump to our instructions for row 23. We've already worked basically all the rows through row 22. I've shown you how they're worked, so let's go ahead and jump ahead. You can pause this video and come back to it if you need to. For row 23, we're simply going to double crochet in each row in each stitch across, but then we're going to go across this end a little bit. So we're going to begin the same way we did before with our chainless starting double crochet or whatever double crochet substitute you prefer. Chain 3 certainly works just as well. I just think this one looks a little bit nicer, but it's definitely a more advanced stitch. So once I've got that in there, I'm going to go ahead and mark the top of that stitch again. Even though I might not come back that way, I just like to keep everything marked until I'm done with the project. Then I'm just going to continue to double crochet in each remaining stitch across of the previous row. Let me pull up some more yarn here, and I'm going to continue double crocheting across, and I'll meet you when we get to the end of this row. All right, so as you can see, I've double crocheted all the way across to the end of the row. But we're not quite done with row 23. It's got a funky little section where we're going to turn and crochet along the side of our rows right here to give us a really nice finished edge before our assembly. So What I'm going to do now is I'm going to go ahead and turn my work so I can work across the ends of these rows. And at this point, I'm going to chain one, and then I want to work 2 single crochets in the side of the double crochet I just made. So if we look closely, we can see here's that stitch. So I'm going to go right into the side of it. And I like to just visually sort of split it in half and put 1 single crochet on the top half. You can kind of see how that one's worked into the top half there. Get my fingers out of the way a little easier. And then this one, second one, into the bottom half of the stitch. There we go. Now, I don't necessarily need to, but again, I'm just going to go ahead and mark the first one of those single crochets that I made. Now, from here, we just single crochet evenly across the remaining ends of the rows. Now, you can use your judgment to sort of work out what's going to lay really flat for you. Everybody has a slightly different gauge and tension. For me, typically working 2 stitches in the side of each double crochet works pretty well. But this is kind of a crunchy stitch a little bit. So if you find you need to skip a stitch every once in a while to get it to lay nice and flat, that's perfectly fine as well. The main thing is just to work nice and even. Now I've only got a few rows here, so I'm going to go ahead and put 2 stitches in the side of each row. But like I say, as you work it, lay it flat every few stitches, every few rows, and just see if you don't need to eliminate a stitch. Everybody's gauge is just a little bit different, and I want you to be successful and happy with your project. So here you can see, just taking my time and worked across the ends of those rows. So now we've got a great straight edge right there. Before I cut my yarn though, I want to make sure to leave a long tail because I'm going to use this tail for assembling our piece. So on the full size one, you'd want to leave about 6 feet of length. Is that too long? Probably, but I'm a big fan of not having to add another piece of yarn if you don't need to, right? So for this little guy, obviously we don't need anything close to that. I'm just going to cut maybe 18 inches or so for our little demo. Once you've got that yarn cut, again, make sure you leave that long tail. We can go ahead and just finish that off however you like so that it's nice and secure, like so. And now we're ready for our assembly. Now with your full-size cowl, you'll want to wet or steam block out your piece while it's still flat before we do this final assembly. That should measure approximately 36 inches long and 13.5 inches tall. The exact measurements don't matter, but you should be pretty darn close. Once you've got that all done, then you want to lay it out flat like so. The main thing is we want to have our long tail up here in our top left corner. This is going to help us with our assembly. This is the tail we're going to use to sew it all together. So once you've got it all laid out, we're first going to fold the right half of the piece to the middle, pointing down. That means like this, like so. Let me do that again. Laid out flat. We take the right side and we just point it down like this. Kind of aim to put that corner there right in the middle. Then we're going to take the left half and we're going to do the same thing. We're going to fold it over. So you can see how now the 2 bottom corners here are going to overlap. We've got one here and one here, like so. There may or may not be stitch markers in there. But the main thing is to have the fold like that, and you'll have your long tail here to your right, like so. You can use this assembly method whether you're right-handed or left-handed because this fabric is double-sided. It doesn't matter which side is facing out. So let me do that one more time, even though you can rewind, and if you get confused after this one, definitely rewind. But let me lay it out. I'm going to go ahead and get rid of those stitch markers because you may not have stitch markers in those stitches. We lay it out with our long tail at the top left, fold over the right side, fold over the left side so that those 2 bottoms meet right there like so, and you get this shape. Now what you're going to do is bring back that pile of stitch markers here, and we're going to start matching up these stitches. So I like to start right down here at this bottom corner, and I will just take my stitch marker and match them up sort of 1 to 1, like so. Now, this side is going to have the tops of stitches on each. This side, you're going to have the sides of the row along with these stitches. So the sides of the row will be hidden behind, and you have to just, again, kind of use your best judgment, lay it out flat, say what's going to make a nice seam, and you can just attach those stitches together here. On this side, if you'd like, you can actually count them out. Now, I don't think I got quite the corner there. Let me redo that one. This is why we take our time with our stitch markers so that when we sew it, we don't have any mistakes and don't have to pull the stitches out. Let me get a better match for our corner there. And now I will just gently, you can kind of see, lay that out. Take your time with it, match that up. Oop, there we go. And then on this side, if we'd like, as I say, we can actually count out or match up the specific stitches. We've got just a little short length here on our demo, so I'll just one, do. And this guy looks right here like they will match up right there. There we go. So now, again, on a bigger one, I'd probably use more stitch markers in between, but on our little sample, you can see how this is now held together. And that fold really does make the magic. So now all we need to do is take a yarn needle and put the long tail on our yarn needle here. There we go. And then we can start our seaming. And we're just going to seam the portions where we've got the two pieces layered like this. And you don't have to do anything fancy. No fancy seaming necessary. We're just going to whip stitch. So that means I am going to sort of hold that stitch marker out of the way so I can see right where I'm going with that needle. And I'm just going to go through both layers. You can see the yarn's attached to the top one. I'm going to start by going through the bottom one, and I just go straight through both of those stitches under both of those top two loops. And then I just pull my yarn on through, and I'm going to move to the next pair of stitches and do the same thing. The only thing about the whip stitch is as you're getting started around a corner kind of like this, you need to sometimes pull the yarn up so that it lays nicely for each stitch. Try that again. There we go. And just gently pull through for each stitch. And you can work through both sides like this. We're going to work our way down to the point. You'll, of course, have lots more stitches on your full-sized one. This is more, I always say my samples are more American Girl doll sized. We don't have one of those around the house. I should see if I can pick one up somewhere and see if all my little samples do in fact fit. There we go. Now we're down at the corner, so we'll just take that stitch marker on out of the way. Don't have to add any extra stitches here like we do with crochet. Sewing is a little bit more flexible, but if you feel like you need to, if you feel like you need a little extra stitch there as you come around the corner, that's absolutely fine. Again, it's your project. Do whatever you think looks good. And especially with this yarn, but also with a solid yarn, these whip stitches will sort of blend right in with the rest of the yarn. So they won't be terribly, obvious, hopefully, where you're sewing them. There we go. So I need to keep pulling up on this so that my overlapped portion doesn't get caught inside the stitches here. And, like I say, as you get along this side, take 2 stitches through a stitch if you feel like you need to. It's just whatever is going to make it all lay nice and flat. Here we go. We're almost there on this side. I'm going to make sure to catch these ends, get this stitch marker out of the way. I really wanted to be in the way. There we go. And with that, we are done. I have seamed up this side. I can check and see, okay, maybe I'll put one more stitch in there just to hold it down a little closer. There we go. And now I can just weave in that end as I normally would. And now you have the option of adding your buttons or patches or leaving it blank. If you'd prefer, you can definitely switch out shawl pins would be a lovely way to display your shawl pins. You've got a double layer here, so they're going to hold nice and securely. But then we turn it back around and it is finished. We can add our button if we want to. Just make sure, as I said, that if you're going to sew through both of those layers, you keep it far enough away from the neckline so it can open up nice and gently. And that is it. And that's how to crochet the Perfect Point Cowl. Thank you so much for watching, and don't forget to like and subscribe.